of a mutant.
Hey, put that down! I grabbed the comic book from Wilson Clark's hand and smoothed out the plastic cover. We were up in my room about an hour after dinner. The sky was black outside my double windows. It gets dark so early in winter. Not like on the Silver Swan's planet, Orcos 3, where the sun never sets and all the superheroes have to wear air-conditioned costumes.
I was only looking at it.
If you get a fingerprint on it, it'll lose half its value. This is a Silver Swan number 0, and it's in mint condition.
How can it be number 0? That doesn't make any sense, Skipper.
Wilson is a really good friend of mine, but sometimes I think he dropped from the planet Mars. He just doesn't know anything. I held up the Silver Swan cover so he could see the big 0 in the corner. That makes it a collector's item. Number 0 comes before number 1. This comic is worth 10 times as much as Silver Swan number 1.
How come all your comics are in these plastic bags? How can you read them?
Read them? I don't read them. If you read them, they lose their value.
Excuse me, you don't read them?
I can't take them out of the bag. If I open the bag, they won't be in mint condition anymore. Wilson came over to get the math homework. He lives next door and he always leaves his math book at school, so he always comes over to get the homework from me. He picked up the math sheet from the foot of my bed.
I'd better get home, Skipper. See you tomorrow.
He started for the door and I followed him. Our reflections stared out at us from my big dresser mirror. Wilson is tall and skinny and blonde. I always feel like a dark, chubby mole next to him. If we were in a comic book, Wilson would be the superhero, and I would be his sidekick, the pudgy, funny one who's always messing up. It's a good thing life isn't a comic book, right? As soon as Wilson left, I turned back to my dresser. In the mirror, I could see the excited look on my own face as I hurried to the dresser. The flat brown envelope waited for me on the dresser top. Mom and Dad said I couldn't open it until after dinner, after I finished my homework. But I couldn't wait. I carefully picked up the envelope, reached inside, and pulled out the treasure. This month's issue of The Masked Mutant. I studied the cover. The Masked Mutant number 24. In jagged red letters across the bottom, I read, "A tight squeeze for the sensational sponge." Totally awesome! I keep all of my comic books in mint condition, wrapped in collector's bags. But there is one comic that I have to read, The Masked Mutant. I read it cover to cover, every word in every panel. I even read the letters page. That's because The Masked Mutant is the best drawn, best written comic in the world. And the Masked Mutant has to be the most powerful, most evil villain ever created. What makes him so terrifying is that he can move his molecules around. That means he can change himself into anything that's solid. Anything. On this cover, the giant octopus is actually the Masked Mutant. You can tell because the octopus is wearing the mask that the Masked Mutant always wears. But he can change himself into any animal or any object. That's how he always escapes from the League of Good Guys. There are 6 different superheroes in the League of Good Guys. They are all mutants too, with amazing powers, and they are the world's best law enforcers. But they can't catch the Masked Mutant. Even the League's leader, the Galloping Gazelle, the fastest man in the solar system, isn't fast enough to keep up with the Masked Mutant. I carried the comic over to the bed. The story began where the Masked Mutant number 23 left off. Sponge Life, the world's best underwater swimmer, was deep in the ocean. He was desperately trying to escape from the Masked Mutant, but the sponge of steel had caught his cape on the edge of a coral reef. I turned the page. As the Masked Mutant drew nearer, he began to move his molecules around. He changed himself into a huge, really gross octopus whose slimy, fat tentacles grabbed the helpless Sponge Life. Sponge Life struggled to pull away, but the octopus tentacles slid closer. Closer. I started to turn the page, but before I could move, I felt something cold and slimy wrap itself around my neck. It was Mitzi, my 9-year-old sister. Why are your hands so cold?
I put them in the refrigerator.
You put them in the refrigerator? Why?
So they'd be cold.
You scared me to death.
I know.
Mitzi, why did you come up here? Just to scare me?
No, Dad told me to come up. And he said to tell you if you're reading comic books instead of doing your homework, you're in big trouble. Isn't that a comic book open on your bed? Too bad. Guess you're in big trouble. See you later, Skipper.
No, wait. This is the new Masked Mutant. I have to read it. Tell Dad I'm doing my math and...
Skipper?
Dad,
Skipper, do you know why your grades are so bad?
because I'm not a very good student? That was a big mistake. Dad hates it when I answer back. He let out an angry roar. Then he lumbered across the room and picked up my carton of comic books, my entire collection.
Skipper, I'm tossing these all out.
You probably expected me to panic, to start begging and pleading for him not to throw away my valuable collection. But I didn't say anything. I just stood beside the bed with my hands lowered at my sides and waited. You see, Dad has done this before, lots of times, but he doesn't really mean it. Anyway, I stood there and waited silently. Dad stopped at the door and turned around. He held the carton in both hands.
Are you going to get your work done, son?
Yes, sir.
And you won't waste any more time tonight on comic books.
Okay, I'll get my homework done, Dad. I promise. I'll start right now.
That's all you think about night and day, Skipper. Comics. It isn't healthy. Really, I don't want to hear any more about comics. Do you understand?
Okay. Sorry, Dad. 2 days later, a very cold, clear day, Wilson came running up to me after school. His blue coat was unzipped. He never zipped his coat. He didn't like the way it looked when it was zipped. I had on a shirt, a sweater, and a heavy quilted down coat zipped up to my chin, and I was still cold. What's up, Wilson?
Wanna come over and see my rubber stamp collection?
Was he kidding? I told him I had to go to the orthodontist.
How are you going to get there?
City bus.
I've seen you take that bus a lot.
Well, there's a comic book store on Franklin. I take the bus there whenever just to see what new comics have come out. The orthodontist is just a few blocks away. I saw the blue and white city bus turn the corner. Oh, I gotta run. See you later. I turned and ran full speed to the bus stop. The driver was a nice guy. He saw me running and waited for me. I thanked him and climbed onto the bus. I probably wouldn't have thanked him if I had known where this bus was going to take me, but I didn't know that it was carrying me to the most frightening adventure of my life. The bus was unusually crowded. I stood for a while. The comic book store was a few blocks away. I checked my watch, thinking maybe I had time to stop there before my orthodontist appointment.
Hey, do you go to Franklin?
I turned to see that a girl had taken the seat beside me. Her carrot-colored hair was tied back in a single braid. She had green eyes and light freckles on her nose. Yeah, I go there.
What's your name?
Skipper.
That's not a real name, is it?
Well, it's what everyone calls me.
Do you live on a boat or something?
I guess Skipper is kind of a dumb name, but I like it a lot better than my real name, Bradley. Well, when I was a little kid, I was always in a hurry, so I used to skip a lot. That's why they started calling me Skipper.
Cute.
You know, I don't think I like this girl, I told myself. Oh, what's your name?
It's Libby. Libby Zax. Where you going, home?
I didn't want to tell her I had an orthodontist appointment. That was too geeky. So I told her I was going to the comic book store over on Franklin.
You collect comics? So do I.
It was my turn to be surprised. Most of the comic book collectors I know are boys. What kind do you collect?
High School Harry and Beanhead. I collect all the digest-size ones, and some of the regular ones, too.
Those are for babies. They're not real comics.
They're very well written, and they're funny. Maybe you just don't get them.
Yeah, maybe I don't. I gazed out the window. I didn't recognize any of the stores. Had we passed the comic book store?
Are all the boys at Franklin like you?
No, I'm the coolest one. I still couldn't decide if I liked her or not. She was pretty cute looking, and she was funny, in a nasty sort of way. I didn't know this neighborhood at all. I pushed the bell and jumped to my feet.
What is your problem?
My stop, I missed it. The bus squealed to a stop. I called out goodbye and hurried out the back door. Why didn't I pay attention?
Are you lost?
Libby, what are you doing here?
It's my stop. I live 2 blocks down that way.
I have to go back. As I turned to leave, something came into view that made my breath catch in my throat. I was staring at a tall building on the other corner. A tall pink stucco building with a bright green domed roof. I was staring at the secret headquarters of the masked mutant.
Skipper, what's wrong?
But I couldn't answer. I stared at the building across the street. I raised my eyes to the bright green roof and shiny pink walls. I had never seen colors like these in real life. They were comic book colors. It was a comic book building. But here it was, standing on the corner across the street.
Skipper, are you okay?
It's real. The secret headquarters building of the masked mutant is real. Or is it?
Skipper, hello? Are you in shock or something?
That building.
Isn't that the ugliest building you ever saw?
But it's...
My dad says the architect had to be colorblind. It doesn't even look like a building. It looks like a blimp standing on its end.
How long has it been there?
I don't know. My family just moved here last spring. It was already here.
Who do you think works in there? There's no sign or anything on the building. Of course there's no sign, I thought. It's the secret headquarters of the world's most evil villain. There's no way the masked mutant would put a sign out front. He doesn't want the League of Good Guys to find out his secret headquarters. This is crazy.
You sure you're okay? It is just a building, Skipper. No need to go ballistic.
I think I saw this building somewhere.
Listen, I gotta get home. Do you want to come over? I'll show you my comic book collection.
No, I'm late for my orthodontist appointment.
You said you were going to a comic book store.
Huh? Oh, yeah, I'm going to the comic book store after my appointment.
Oh, well, see you sometime.
Yeah, see ya. She turned and jogged down the street. I was sure she thought I was a total geek, but I couldn't help it. I really was in shock. That building. I turned back to it. I brought my face right up to the glass and peered in. I could see a wide lobby, pink and yellow walls, a row of elevators near the back, but no people. No one. Empty. I grabbed the glass door handle. Should I go in? I started to tug the heavy door open. Then, out of the corner of my eye, I saw a blue and white bus. I was only 5 minutes late for my appointment. If I jumped on the bus, I could be at the orthodontist's office in a few minutes. I turned and ran to the bus stop. I felt disappointed, but I also felt relieved. Walking into the headquarters of the meanest mutant in the universe was a little scary. The bus eased to a stop. I climbed on board and hurried to the back of the bus. Weird, I thought. Totally weird.
And it was the exact same building as in the comic book?
As soon as I got home yesterday afternoon, I checked out the comic book. The building was exactly the same. Wilson stared at me across the lunchroom table.
Okay, I've solved the mystery.
What?
It's simple. Who draws the masked mutant?
The artist? Jimmy Steranko, of course. Steranko created the masked mutant and the League of Good Guys. I can't believe you don't know that.
Well, I bet this guy Steranko was here one day.
Steranko? Here? In Riverview Falls?
Listen, let's say Steranko is here. He's driving down the street, and he sees the weird building. He stops his car, he gets out, he stares at the building, and he thinks, what a great building. This building would make a perfect secret headquarters for the masked mutant.
Wow, I see. You mean he saw the building, liked it, and copied it when he drew the headquarters building. It made sense. Actually, it made too much sense. I planned to take the bus and go see the building again that afternoon. But Ms. Partridge gave us a ton of homework. I had to go straight home. The next day, it snowed. A week later, I finally had a chance to go back and take another look at the building. This time, I was going inside. I decided there must be a receptionist or a guard or someone who would know whose building it was and who worked there. I was feeling really brave as I climbed on the bus after school. Taking a seat at the front of the bus, I looked for Libby. No sign of her. Finally, the bus pulled up to a stop. This was it. I jumped up and pushed through the crowd. Yes, This was the right stop. I recognized it all now. I turned and raised my eyes to the strange building and found myself staring at a large, empty lot. The building was gone. I stared across the street. How could that enormous building vanish in 1 week? Another bus pulled up to the bus stop.
Skipper! Skipper! Hey, Skipper!
Libby hopped off the bus waving.
Hey, what are you doing back in my neighborhood?
That building, it's gone.
Well, don't say hi or anything.
Excuse me. Hi. What happened to that building? She turned and followed my stare. Then she shrugged.
I guess they tore it down.
Tore it? But
Oh, it was so ugly. Maybe the city made them tear it down.
No, but did you see them tear it down?
No.
You live near here, right?
Yes.
Did you see them doing it?
Well, no. I mean, I've gone past here a few times.
Okay, but did you see any machinery?
No.
Any big wrecking balls? Any bulldozers?
No.
Dozens of workers?
No, I didn't actually see anyone tearing the building down, I swear, but I didn't really look. I don't know why you're so interested in that ugly building anyway, Skipper. I'm glad it's gone.
But it was in a comic book.
What? What are you talking about?
Nothing.
Did you come all the way out here just to see that building?
No way. Of course not.
Oh. And do you want to come to my house and see my comic book collection?
I was so frazzled and mixed up. I said yes. I hurried out of Libby's house less than an hour later. Libby insisted on showing me every high school Harry and Beanhead comic she had. I couldn't stop thinking about the weird building. I jogged back to the bus stop on Main Street. I had to wait nearly half an hour for the bus to come. When I finally got home, I found a brown envelope waiting for me on the little table in the hall where Mom drops the mail. Yes! The special issue of The Masked Mutant. I raced up the stairs to my room. Carefully, I slid the comic book out of the envelope and examined the cover. And there it stood. The pink and green headquarters building, right on the cover. My hand trembled as I opened to the first page. The masked mutant stood in front of a big communications console. He stared into a wall of about 20 TV monitors. I'm tracking each one of them, the masked mutant said in the first dialogue balloon. They'll never find me. I've thrown an invisibility curtain around my entire headquarters. My mouth dropped open as I read those words. An invisibility curtain. No one can see the masked mutant's building because he slipped an invisibility curtain around it. Is that what happened in real life? It sounded totally crazy. Was there really an invisibility curtain hiding the building? I knew I had to go back and find out. The next afternoon, I hopped on the city bus. Tossing my token into the box, I saw Libby sitting near the back. As the bus lurched away from the curb, I stumbled down the aisle and dropped beside her. I'm going back to that building. I think there's an invisibility curtain around it.
Don't you ever say hi?
I said hi. Then I repeated what I had said about the invisibility curtain. I told her I read about it in the newest Masked Mutant comic. Libby listened to me intently. I could see that she was finally starting to see why I was so excited about finding this building. When I finished explaining everything, she put a hand on my forehead.
You don't feel hot? Are you just crazy?
I am not crazy. I'll prove it. Come with me. She edged closer to the window, as if trying to get away from me.
No way. I can't believe I am sitting here with a boy who thinks the comic books come to life.
The bus pulled up to the bus stop. I scrambled out the back exit. Libby stepped off right behind me. I gazed across the street. No building. An empty lot. Well, you coming?
To that empty lot? Skipper, aren't you going to feel like a total jerk when there's nothing there?
Well, go home then.
Okay, I'll come. Now tell me, how do we get through the invisibility curtain?
Well, in the comic book, people just step through it. You can't feel it or anything. It's like a smoke screen. But once you step through it, you can see the building.
Let's get this over with, okay?
Walking side by side, we took a step across the sidewalk toward the empty lot.
I can't believe I'm doing this. I can't believe I'm...
The building had popped into view. We stood a few feet from the glass entrance.
You were right. Now what?
I couldn't speak. The comic book is real, I thought. Does that mean the building really belongs to the masked mutant?
Let's get away from here, okay?
No way. Come on. Let's go in.
Go in? Are you crazy?
We have to, Libby. Come on. Don't stop to think about it. Let's just go. I took a deep breath, pulled open the heavy glass door, and we slipped inside. I'd never been so scared in my entire life. The lobby was enormous. It seemed to stretch on forever. I didn't see a reception desk, no chairs or tables, no furniture of any kind.
Where is everyone?
I could see Libby was frightened too. She clung to my arm, standing close beside me. The vast room was empty. Not another person in sight. I took another step and heard a soft beep. A beam of yellow light shot out of the wall and rolled down over my body. I felt a gentle tingling, the kind of feeling when your arm goes to sleep. A second or two later, the light vanished, and the tingly feeling went away.
What was that? What was what?
Didn't you feel that?
I didn't feel anything. You tried to scare me or something, Skipper.
No, it was some kind of an electric beam. It shined on me when I stepped forward.
Let's get out of here. It is so quiet, it's creepy.
I turned my eyes to the row of elevators against the yellow wall. It's just a big office building. It's just a big office building.
Well, if it's an office building, where are the workers?
Maybe the offices are closed.
On a Thursday? It isn't a holiday or anything. I think the building is empty, Skipper. I don't think anyone works here.
I took a few steps toward the elevators. But all the lights are on, Libby, and the door was open.
I know what you're thinking. You don't think this is just an office building. You think this is the secret headquarters of that comic book character, don't you, Skipper?
Well, maybe it is. I mean, how do you explain the invisibility curtain? It was in the comic book and it was outside this building.
I can't explain it. It's weird. It's too weird. This place gives me the creeps, Skipper. I just really think
there's only one way to find out the truth.
No way.
Well, just ride up and down. Maybe open the elevator doors on a few floors and peek out.
No way!
It'll only take a minute. We've come this far. I have to explore a little. I don't want to go home without finding out what this building is.
You can ride the elevators. I'm going home.
She backed up to the glass doors. Outside, I saw a blue and white bus stop at the curb. If I jumped on the bus and rode home now, the building would still be a mystery, and the mystery would drive me crazy. Okay, fine, Libby. You can go home if you want. I'm gonna ride the elevator to the top and back. She stared at me thoughtfully. Then she rolled her eyes.
Okay, I'll come with you. But I'm only doing this because I feel sorry for you.
Okay, what? Why do you feel sorry for me?
Because you're so messed up. You really think a comic book can come to life? That is sad. That is really sad.
Oh yeah, well what about the invisibility curtain? That was real, wasn't it? What's the big deal, I thought to myself. So you're going to take an elevator ride, so what? It's not like the masked mutant is going to jump into the elevator with us. We'll probably just peer out at a lot of boring offices, and that's all. I pushed the lighted button on the wall. The elevator door in front of us slid open. I poked my head into the elevator. There were no signs on the walls, no building directory. I suddenly realized there were no signs in the lobby either. Not even a sign with the name of the building. Weird. The door slid shut silently behind us. I turned the control panel to the left of the door and pushed the button to the top floor. We're going down! I had pushed the button to the top floor, but we were dropping fast. I grabbed the railing. Where was it taking us? You okay?
Uh-huh.
We should have gone up. I pushed up.
Why doesn't the door open?
We both stared at the door. I stepped to the center of the elevator. Open! The door didn't move.
We're trapped in here.
No. It'll open. Watch. It's just slow.
Nothing's happening. The elevator must be broken. We'll be trapped down here forever. The air's starting to run out already. I can't breathe.
Hey, Libby, don't panic. Take a deep breath. There's plenty of air.
Why won't the door open? I knew we shouldn't have done this.
I turned to the control panel. A button at the bottom read open. I pushed it. Instantly, the door slid open.
See, we're okay.
Yeah. But where are we? I poked my head out. It was very dark. I think we're in the basement. There are all kinds of pipes and big furnaces and stuff. I took a step out the door and glanced both ways. I couldn't see much. Machinery, a row of metal trash cans, a stack of long metal boxes.
Come on, Skipper. Let's go back up. Now!
I stepped back into the elevator and pushed the button marked lobby. The door didn't close. The elevator didn't move. I pushed it 5 or 6 times. Nothing happened. I pushed everything. I pushed a red button marked emergency 5 or 6 times. Nothing. I don't believe this.
Let's get out and take a different elevator.
I led the way out into the dark basement. Libby stayed close behind me. What's going on? Why did the door close when it wouldn't close before? Libby didn't reply. I waited for my eyes to adjust to the darkness. Then I saw what Libby was staring at.
Where are the other elevators?
We were staring at a smooth, bare wall. The elevator that had brought us down here was the only elevator on the wall.
The other elevators don't come down here, I guess.
I searched the wall for a button to push to bring our elevator back. I couldn't find one. No button.
There's no way out! No way out at all!
Silence. At the far wall, we could see that there were no elevators, only a thick tangle of cobwebs up near the ceiling. Maybe there are elevators on the other wall.
Maybe.
Or maybe there's a stairway or something.
Maybe.
Just the furnace starting up.
Let's find a way out of here. I'm never going in an elevator again as long as I live!
Hello? Anybody down here? Anybody here? Can anybody hear me?
Hello? There's got to be some stairs leading out of here.
Dim light shone through a doorway up ahead. We found ourselves in a long hallway. Anybody here? Only silence. Dark. I saw stacks of cartons, tall file cabinets, strange machinery I didn't recognize. Weird, huh? When Libby didn't answer, I turned to make sure she was okay. She was gone. I squinted back down the long gray hallway. No sign of her. Libby? Libby, where are you? Libby, okay, you know, if this is some kind of a dumb joke, it's not funny. I forced myself to retrace our steps. I began jogging, peering into every dark room. Libby! The narrow hall led to an enormous, brightly lit room. I had to shut my eyes against the sudden bright light. When I opened them, I found myself nearly face to face with a gigantic machine. The machine had to be a block long. It was a printing press. Libby, are you in here? Libby! Silence. This room was as empty as all the others. I made my way to a long table at the back of the room. I found a stool and dropped down on it. 100 questions pushed into my mind at once. Where was Libby? Where was everyone? Is this where they print the comic books? Am I in the basement of Collectible Comics, the company that publishes The Masked Mutant? I stared around the cluttered room, searching for Libby. I turned back to the table and nearly toppled off the stool. The masked mutant was staring up at me. A large colored drawing of the masked mutant stared up at me from the table. I picked it up and examined it. It had been drawn on thick poster board in colored inks. Glancing across the table, I saw a stack of papers on a low counter that ran along the entire back wall. They were ink drawings and pencil sketches. Many of them were of the masked mutant. Some of them showed him moving his molecules around, changing into wild animals and strange creatures. I opened a thick folder and found about a dozen colors changing into wild animals and strange creatures. I opened a thick folder and found about a dozen color sketches of the members of the League of Good Guys. Then, I found a stack of pencil drawings of characters I'd never seen before. This must be where they make the comic books, I told myself. I was so excited about seeing these drawings and sketches, I nearly forgot about Libby. This pink and green building must be the headquarters of Collectible Comics, I realized. I was starting to feel calmer. I found some really new pencil drawings of the masked mutant. My eyes were practically spinning. I never dreamed that Collectible Comics were made right in Riverview Falls. I was having a great time, really enjoying myself. Of course, it had to end. It ended when I opened the last folder on the counter and stared at the sketches inside. My hands trembled as I shuffled from one to the next. It was impossible. I was staring at sketches of me. You're just imagining it, Skipper, I told myself. The boy in the sketches only looks like you. But it had to be me. He was short like me, and just a little bit chubby. He wore my clothes. Baggy jeans and long-sleeved pocket t-shirts. I stopped at a drawing halfway through the pile and stared hard at it, holding it close to my face. The boy in the drawing even had a chip on his front tooth, just like me. Who had been drawing me? How did the artist know that I have a tiny chip on one front tooth? I stared at the drawings, my heart pounding. In one drawing, I looked really scared. I was running from something, my arms out stiffly in front of me. Another drawing was a close-up portrait of my face. My expression was angry, furious. I was still staring at the drawings when I heard the footsteps. And I realized I was no longer alone. Who's there? Where were you? I searched everywhere. Where were you? I thought you were right behind me.
I thought you were right ahead of me. I turned the corner and you were gone. How could you leave me by myself in this creepy place?
I didn't. You left me.
Well, let's get out of here, Skipper. I found some elevators that are working.
Look, Libby, at these drawings. You have to see these.
Are you serious? I want to get out of here. I don't want to look at comic book drawings now.
But wait, don't go.
I told you I found some elevators. Are you coming or not?
But these drawings are of me.
Oh, yeah, sure. Why would anyone draw you, Skipper?
I don't know. But these drawings are definitely...
Oh, you have a sick imagination. You seem like a normal guy, but you are totally weird. I have to get out of here. Goodbye.
I dropped the drawings onto the counter and chased after her. Wait up, Libby! I didn't want to be left alone in this creepy place. I had to get home and figure it out. I felt totally confused. We turned a corner and I saw a row of elevators against the wall. Libby pushed the button on the wall and one of the elevators slid open. Neither of us spoke a word. Libby pushed the button marked lobby. We heard a soft hum and felt the elevator start to move. When the door slid open and we saw the pink and yellow walls of the lobby, Libby and I burst out of the elevator and ran to the exit.
I've got to get home. My mom is gonna have a cow.
Well, do you believe me about the drawings?
No, who would believe that?
Then she crossed the street and headed for home. Bus approaching. Reaching in my pocket for a token, I turned to take one last look at the weird building. It had vanished once again. I needed time to think about everything, but Wilson was waiting for me when I got home.
Hey, I brought over some of my rubber stamps. I thought you might like to see some of the better ones.
Wilson, I just had a really weird thing happen, and I need to think about it. Alone.
What happened?
It's kind of a long story. See, I was in a building on the north side of town. I think it's where they make the collectible comics.
Really? Here in Riverview Falls? They let you in?
Well, there was no one there. So we went in. This girl I met on the bus, Libby, and me. We tried to go up in the elevator, but it took us down. Then Libby got lost and I found a stack of drawings of myself.
Wait a minute. I'm not following this too well, Skipper.
How could I explain it? I told Wilson I'd talk to him later after I calmed down. After he left, something caught my eye on the mail table in the hall. A brown envelope. Was it? Yes. An envelope from the Collectible Comics Company. The next special issue of The Masked Mutant. I grabbed for the envelope, tucked it under my arm, and ran up the stairs, 2 at a time. I needed total privacy. My hands trembled as I ripped open the envelope and pulled out the comic book. The cover showed a close-up of the Masked Mutant. His eyes glared angrily out at the reader. "A new foe for the mutant," proclaimed the title. A new foe? Would this new issue help solve the mystery for me? Would it help solve any of the puzzles from this afternoon? I turned to the first page. It showed the headquarters building from above. The next drawing showed the building at street level. In the deep shadows, someone was sneaking into the headquarters building. I turned the page. I don't believe it!
Turn the tape over, unless you've got goosebumps.
It was me sneaking into the Masked Mutant's headquarters building. I turned the pages with shaking hands, studying each picture. The Galloping Gazelle sat in a tiny room. The room grew hotter and hotter. In minutes, the Galloping Gazelle would become the Boiled Gazelle. The Masked Mutant had trapped the Galloping Gazelle in his headquarters, and now he planned to leave the gazelle there to boil. I turned the page. There I was, creeping through the dark hallway. In the comic, I wore the same t-shirt and baggy jeans I had on right now. The next drawing showed a close-up of my face. Big beads of sweat rolled down my pink face. I guess that meant I was scared. I thought I looked a little too chubby in that drawing, but it was me. It was definitely me. I tore out of my room and hurtled down the stairs. Mom! Dad! Where are you? I found them in the kitchen preparing dinner. Dad was chopping onions. His eyes were filled with tears. Mom was bent over the stove. As usual, she was having trouble getting the oven lit. Okay, you're not gonna believe me, but I'm in this comic book. You have to see this.
Son, did you have a letter to the editor published?
No, I'm in the comic. I waved the comic book in Dad's face.
I can't see a thing. Get that away from me. Can't you see what this onion is doing to my eyes?
I ran over to Mom. She was still hunched over the stove trying to get it to light. Mom, you have to check this out. I'm in here, look. It's really me.
Dear, I think the pilot on the stove is out again.
Honey, I'll check it in a minute if I can ever stop crying.
Oh, will you look at this? Mom gave a quick glance to the page I was holding in front of her.
Yes, Skipper, that does look a little like you. Dear, we really need a new stove.
Dad, please, take a look. I ran back to him, but he had shoved a towel up to his face and was crying into it. I guess you can't look now, huh? What was their problem anyway? This was the most exciting thing that had ever happened to me, and they couldn't be bothered to take one look? Angrily, I closed the comic and stomped out of the room. I dropped down onto the living room couch and turned to the back of the comic. I wanted to read the part where it tells you what to expect in the next comic book. There was the Galloping Gazelle still trapped in the boiling hot room. And there stood the Masked Mutant outside the door, about to declare his victory. I squinted at the white thought balloon over the Galloping Gazelle's head. What was he saying? Only the boy can save me now. I read it again and again. Was it true? Was I the only one who could save the galloping gazelle? After school the next day, I hurried to the bus stop. I wondered if Libby would be on the bus. I was dying to tell her about the comic book. I wanted to tell her I was going back into the strange building. Would she go back with me? No way, I decided. Libby had been frightened after our first visit. I could never drag her back there.
Skipper, what's up?
Wilson.
Where you going? You going home?
2 blocks up, the blue and white bus turned the corner. Nah, I'm going someplace. The bus pulled to the curb. The door opened.
Hey, Hey, Skipper!
I'll see you later. As I stepped onto the bus, I remembered where I was going, and I suddenly wondered if I would see Wilson later. I wondered if I would ever see him again. Libby wasn't on the bus. In a way, I was glad. It meant I wouldn't have to explain to her what I was doing. She would have laughed at me for believing what I had read in the comic book. But the comic book had told the truth about the invisibility curtain, and now it had said that I was the only one who could save the galloping gazelle and stop the masked mutant's evil. I climbed off the bus in front of the empty lot. As I crossed the street, I felt a wave of fear sweep over me. I stopped on the sidewalk and struggled to calm myself down. It's just a comic book. Just a comic book. Finally, I worked up enough courage to move forward. One step, another. Suddenly, the building popped into view. Even though I had crossed through the invisibility curtain before, it was still amazing to see a building suddenly appear before my eyes. I pulled open one of the glass entrance doors and stepped into the bright pink and yellow lobby. Staying near the door, I turned to the left, then the right. Still empty, not a person in sight. Where is everyone, I asked myself. It's the middle of the afternoon. How can I be the only one in this huge lobby? I stopped in front of the elevators. I raised my finger to the elevator button, but didn't push it. I wish Libby had come along, I decided. If Libby were here, at least I'd have someone to be terrified with. I pushed the elevator button. Well, here goes. And then someone laughed, right behind me. I spun around. No one there. My eyes darted around the lobby. I couldn't see anyone. Who's there? Silence. My eyes went up to the wall above the elevator. A small black loudspeaker poked out from the yellow wall. The laughter must have come from there, I decided. Get out of here, a voice inside me begged. Just turn around, Skipper, and run out of this building as fast as your rubbery, shaky legs will take you. I ignored the voice and pressed the elevator button. The elevator door slid open, and I stepped inside. I stared at the control panel. Should I push up or down? The last visit, I had pushed up, and the elevator had taken Libby and me down to the basement. My finger hesitated in front of the buttons. What would happen if this time I pushed down? I didn't get a chance to find out. The elevator started with a jolt before I pushed any button at all. I was going up, but up to where? I watched the floor numbers whirl by. 40, 41, 42. It came to a stop at 46. The door slid open. I let go of the railing and stepped into a long gray hallway. I blinked once, twice. It looked as if I had stepped out into a black and white movie. The walls, the ceiling, the floor, the doors were gray. It was like being in a fog. The long, twisting hallways in the comic book looked just like this hallway, except that the comic book hallway had bright green walls and a yellow ceiling, and the rooms were filled with costumed supervillains who worked for the masked mutant. As I slowly made my way through this gray, empty hallway, I had a weird thought. Everything looked so gray and washed out. I had the feeling that I was in a sketch of a hallway, a black and white pencil drawing that hadn't been filled in yet. But of course, that didn't make any sense at all. I told myself I was just thinking crazy thoughts because I was so scared. Whoa! Was it coming from up ahead? From around the next corner? I forced myself to walk, to turn the corner. The walls down this hallway were bright green. The green walls led to a closed yellow door. The door had a metal bolt against the front. The sounds were coming from behind the bolted doorway. Anyone in there? I froze. I hesitated for a second. Then, I raised both hands to the metal doorknob and shoved it with all my strength. It slid easily. The door was unlocked. I stumbled into the room and stared in amazement at the figure staring back at me. You're real? His cape was twisted, and his mask had rolled down over one eye. But I knew. I was staring at the galloping gazelle. You're really alive?
Untie me, kid! Hurry!
I realized that his powerful arms and legs were tied to the chair. The thumping and bumping had been the sounds of his chair banging against the floor as he had tried to escape. I can't believe that you're here!
Just hurry, okay? We've got to get out of here. I don't think we have much time.
Time?
He'll be back, and we want to get to him before he gets to us, right, kid?
Us?
Just untie me. I can handle him. I wish I could contact my buddies at the League. They're probably all searching the universe for me.
Still half dazed, I stumbled across the tiny room to the chair and began working at the ropes. The knots were big and tight and hard to untie.
Hurry, kid! Hey, how did you find the secret headquarters anyway?
I just found it.
Don't be modest, kid. You used your secret cyber radar powers, right? Or did you use ultra mind control to read my thoughts?
No, I just took the 14 bus to Franklin. I didn't really know how to answer him. Did he have me confused with someone else? Why was I here? What was going to happen to us? To me? Finally, one of the knots slid open. The galloping gazelle flexed his muscles and stretched out his powerful chest, and the ropes popped away easily.
Thanks, kid.
He jumped to his feet and adjusted his mask so that he could see through both eye holes. Then he started toward the door, taking long, heavy strides.
Okay, let's go pay him a surprise visit.
Do you really want me to come too?
I know what you're worried about, kid. You're worried that you won't be able to keep up with me because I have dino legs, and I'm the fastest living mutant in the known universe!
Well, yeah. That has something to do with it.
Don't worry, kid. I'll go slow. Let's get moving!
I tripped over the tangle of ropes on the floor, grabbed the chair to catch my balance, then followed him out into the green and yellow hallway. He turned and began running down the hall. As I started to follow, he became a blue and red blur of light, and then vanished. A few seconds later, he came jogging back.
Sorry, kid. Too fast for you?
A little. He rested a gloved hand heavily on my shoulder. His gray eyes peered at me solemnly through the slits in his mask.
Do you have wall climbing abilities?
No, sorry.
Okay, we'll take the stairs.
He grabbed my hand and pulled me down the hall. He moved so fast, both of my feet were in the air. I expected the galloping gazelle to pull me up the stairs, but to my surprise, he stopped just past the doorway. He narrowed his eyes at the stairs.
Wait! There is a disintegrator ray there.
A what?
A disintegrator ray. If you step into it, it will disintegrate you in 1/100th of a second. Do you think you can jump the first 2 steps?
You mean...
Land on the 3rd step. Get a good running start, kid.
Yeah, I'll need it, I thought, staring at the steep steps. I suddenly wished I hadn't eaten so many Pop-Tarts and bowls of Frosted Flakes for breakfast every morning. If only I were a little slimmer, a little lighter.
Get a good running start and make sure you clear the first 2 steps. Land on the 3rd step and keep moving. If you land on the 1st or 2nd step, you'll disintegrate. Poof! Not good.
I wanted to be brave, but my body just wasn't cooperating. It was shaking and quaking as if I were made of Jell-O.
I'll go first.
He turned to the stairs, bent his knees, stretched both hands forward, and leaped over the invisible disintegrator ray, landing on the 5th step.
See? It's easy.
Easy for you. Some of us don't have dino legs.
Hurry! If you stop to think about it, you won't be able to do it.
I'm not very athletic. What an understatement. Whenever the kids I know play any sports, I am always the last kid chosen for a team.
Hurry! Take a good running jump, kid. Aim for the third step. It isn't that high. I'll catch you.
The third step looked about a mile in the air to me. But I bent my knees, took a running leap, my best leap, and landed with a hard thud on the first step. I clamped my eyes shut as the disintegrator ray poured through me and my body crumbled into thin air. Actually, I didn't feel anything. I opened my eyes to find myself standing on the bottom step, still in one chubby piece.
I guess he doesn't have it turned on. You caught a break, kid.
I was still trembling. Cold beads of sweat rolled down my forehead. The galloping gazelle turned and started up the steps, his cape floating behind him.
Let's go meet our destiny.
I didn't like the sound of that, not one bit. But I didn't like anything that was going on. At the top landing, he pushed open a wide metal door, and we stepped into an amazing room. The room glowed with color. It was decorated like an office, the fanciest, most luxurious office I had ever seen. Wow!
Nice place, but his time is over.
You mean...
I'm too fast for him. I'll run circles around him faster and faster until I become a raging tornado. He'll be swept away forever.
Okay.
Well, he caught me napping before. That's the only way he can catch me, when I'm asleep. Otherwise, I'm much too fast for him. Too fast for anybody. Do you know how fast I run the 100?
How fast?
I run it in 1/10 of a second. That would be an Olympic record, but they don't let me in the Olympics because I'm a mutant.
I started to follow the galloping gazelle, but I stopped when I heard the laughter. The same cold laughter I had heard in the lobby. I froze in fright and stared as the gold desk began to move and change. The shiny gold shimmered as it shifted and bent, raising itself up and forming a human figure. I took a step back, trying to hide behind the galloping gazelle as the desk melted away and the masked mutant rose up in its place. His dark eyes burned menacingly through the slits in his mask. He was a lot taller than he appeared in the comic and a lot more powerful looking. He raised a fist at the galloping gazelle.
You dare to invade my private office?
Say goodbye to all this ill-gotten splendor.
I'll say goodbye to you.
Then he turned his frightening cold eyes on me.
I'll handle you easily, Gazelle. But first, watch me destroy the kid.
You'll deal with me, mutant. If you want the kid, you'll have to take me out first.
No problem.
But his expression changed as the galloping gazelle began to circle him, faster and faster, until the gazelle appeared to disappear into a whirling, spinning tornado of blue and red. The gazelle is carrying out his plan, I realized as I backed up to the wall. He's going to run faster and faster around the masked mutant until he creates a whirlwind that will blow the evil mutant away. Pressing my back against the wall, I watched the amazing battle. The galloping gazelle whirled faster, faster. So fast a powerful wind swept over the room, slapping the curtains, toppling over a vase of flowers, sending books flying from the shelves. Yes, I thought, we win! We win! I saw the masked mutant casually stick his foot out. The galloping gazelle tripped over the foot and slammed face down onto the floor with a shattering thud. The wind stopped. The curtains fell back in place. The masked mutant stood triumphantly over the fallen superhero. Get up! Get up, Gazelle, please! The gazelle groaned, but didn't move.
Dinner time.
I stared in horror as the mutant began to change again. His face twisted and appeared to flatten. His body lowered and he leaned forward, spreading his hands on the floor. He stepped forward as a snarling leopard. Tilting its head to one side, the leopard uttered a ferocious growl of attack. Then it arched its back, tensed its back legs, and leaped onto the sprawled body of the galloping gazelle. Oh, Gazelle, please, get up! Get up! The masked mutant clawed and gnawed at the helpless gazelle. Get up! To my shock, the galloping gazelle opened his eyes. The ferocious leopard ripped away the bottom of the gazelle's mask with its teeth. The galloping gazelle rolled out from under the enormous beast and scrambled to his feet. With a roar, the leopard swept its paws, sending a long tear down the length of the gazelle's cape.
I'm out of here. You're on your own, kid.
What? No, wait! I don't think the gazelle heard me. He shoved open the door with one shoulder and vanished. Quickly, the leopard changed its body, shifting and moving, until the masked mutant stepped forward. He smiled at me as he approached. A cold, menacing smile.
So, what are your powers, kid?
Huh?
What are your powers? What, do you shrink down to a tiny bug? Is that your secret?
Huh? Shrink? Me? I was shaking so hard, I couldn't think straight. Why was he asking me these questions?
Do you burst into flames? Is that your power? Are you magnetic? Are you a mind fogger? What is it, kid? Come on, answer me. What is your power?
I don't have any powers.
So, you won't tell me, huh? Okay. All right, fine. Have it your way.
His smile faded. His dark eyes turned cold and hard.
I was just trying to make it easy on you. I want to destroy you in the easiest way possible.
Oh, I see. My eye caught something on the shelf. A large, smooth stone as big as a coconut. It was some kind of decoration. I wondered if it would make a good weapon.
Say bye-bye, kid.
He came toward me quickly, and as he moved, I grabbed the big stone off the shelf. It was a lot heavier than I'd thought. It wasn't stone, I realized. It was shaped like a smooth stone, but it was made of solid steel. I hoisted it up and took careful aim. Then, I heaved it at the masked mutant's head. And missed! It thudded heavily onto the carpet. I tried to duck away from him, but he was too quick. His powerful hands grabbed me and lifted me off the floor. Higher, higher! I realized he was moving his molecules, making his arms stretch until he had lifted me above the chandelier. I thrashed my arms and legs and tried to squirm away, but he was too strong. Higher, higher, until my head banged hard against the ceiling, at least 20 feet above the floor. Was he going to hurl me to my doom?
Happy landings!
That's when I heard the door swing open. The masked mutant heard it too. Holding me suspended in the air, he turned to see who had entered.
You?
High above the floor, I squirmed around and bent my head to see through the chandelier. The light sparkled through the crystals, making it impossible to see.
How dare you burst in here?
He lowered me a little, just enough for me to see the doorway. Libby! What are you doing here? The masked mutant lowered me to the floor and turned to face Libby. My legs were wobbling so badly I had to grab onto a bookshelf to hold myself up. Libby, get out of here! Get away! But she stormed into the room, red hair flying behind her. She had her eyes on me and completely ignored the masked mutant. Doesn't she know that he is the most evil supervillain in the known universe?
Skipper, didn't you hear me calling you?
What? Libby,
I was across the street. I saw you going into this building. I called to you.
I didn't hear you. Listen, you gotta get out of here. Really, Libby.
But I have been searching and searching for you. What are you doing here, Skipper?
I really can't talk right now. The masked mutant stood impatiently, hands at his waist, tapping his boot on the carpet.
I see that I'll have to destroy you both.
Libby spun around. She seemed to notice the supervillain for the first time.
Excuse me, Mr. Superhero, but Skipper and I are leaving now.
Didn't she know who she was talking to? No. Of course she didn't know. She only reads high school Harry and Beanhead comics. She had no idea how much danger we were in.
I'm sorry, you are not leaving. In fact, you are never leaving this building again.
Libby glared back at him and I saw her expression change. Her green eyes grew wide and her mouth dropped open. She took a step back until she stood beside me.
We have to do something.
Do something? What could we do against the monstrous mega mutant? I couldn't think of how to answer her. The masked mutant tossed back his cape and took a step toward us.
So, which one of you wants to go first?
I turned and saw that Libby had pulled a yellow plastic toy gun from her backpack. Libby, what are you doing? That's just a toy.
No, but this is a comic book, right? Can't be real, so if it's a comic book, we can do anything.
She raised the plastic toy pistol and aimed it at the masked mutant.
What do you plan to do with that toy?
It only looks like a toy. It's a molecule melter. Leave this room or I'll melt all your molecules.
Nice try.
He narrowed his eyes at Libby and took another step toward her.
I guess you want to go first. I'll try not to hurt you too much.
Libby held the toy gun in front of her with both hands. She gritted her teeth, preparing to pull the trigger. The masked mutant moved closer.
Put down that toy. It can't help you.
I'm not kidding. It isn't a toy. It really is a molecule melter.
The masked mutant took another step closer, then another step, and Libby aimed the gun at the mutant's chest. She pulled the trigger. A high-pitched whistle burst out of the gun. The masked mutant took another step closer, then another. Libby lowered the plastic gun. We both stared in horror as the masked mutant came nearer. He took one more step, then stopped. A bright white light circled his body. The light became a crackling electrical current. The mutant uttered a low moan. Then, he began to melt. His head melted down into his mask. The empty mask slumped onto the shoulders of his costume, and then the rest of his body melted away, shrinking until there was nothing left but a wrinkled costume and cape heaped on the carpet. Libby and I stood staring down at the costume. It worked! The toy gun! Libby, it worked!
Of course it worked. I warned him it was a molecule melter. He wouldn't listen.
My brain was doing flip-flops. I didn't really understand. It was just a toy pistol. Why did it destroy the mightiest mutant on Earth? Let's get out of here. Libby moved to block my path.
I'm sorry, Skipper.
Sorry, what do you mean, Libby? She raised the plastic pistol and aimed it at me.
I'm sorry, because you're disappearing next.
Libby, please, put down the gun. You know, you have a really sick sense of humor. She kept the plastic gun aimed at my chest. The expression on her face was hard. Libby, what's your problem?
I'm not Libby. I hate to break the news to you, Skipper.
But there is no Libby.
As she said those words, she began to change. Her red hair slid into her head. Her cheeks grew wider. Her nose lengthened. Her eyes changed from green to black. She stretched up, growing taller and taller. And as she grew, her clothing changed too. Her jeans and t-shirt appeared to melt away, replaced by a familiar-looking costume. The costume of the masked mutant. Libby, what's going on? How are you doing that?
You don't catch on very fast, do you?
Libby,
I'm the masked mutant, Skipper. I changed my molecules into a girl your age and called myself Libby. But I'm the masked mutant!
But... She tossed the toy gun aside and grinned at me triumphantly. But you just melted the masked mutant. We both saw him melt.
No, you're mistaken. I just melted the magnificent Molecule Man.
What? Molecule Man?
He worked for me. Sometimes I ordered him to dress like me, to keep people off my track.
He worked for you, and you melted him?
I'm a villain. I do very bad things, remember?
It all started to come clear. There never was a Libby. It had been the masked mutant all along.
Now I have no choice. Now I have to do something very bad to you, Skipper.
But why? Why can't I just leave? I'll go straight home. I'll never tell anyone about you, I promise.
I can't let you leave. You belong here now.
Huh? What are you saying, Libby? I mean, mutant.
You belong here now, Skipper. I knew it when I saw you on the bus for the first time. I knew you were perfect when you told me you knew everything about my comics.
But I trusted you.
It's so hard to find good characters for my stories, Skipper. I'm always looking for new foes. That's why I was so pleased when I discovered you. When you recognized my headquarters building, I knew you were right. I knew you were ready to star in a story. I'm so sorry, Skipper, but the story is over. Your part has come to an end.
What? What are you going to do?
Destroy you, of course.
I pressed my back against the wall. I stared back at him, thinking hard.
Goodbye, Skipper.
But you can't do this. You're just a character in a comic book. But I'm real. I'm a real live person. I'm a real boy.
No, you're not, Skipper. You're not real. You're just like me now. You're a comic book character, too.
I pinched my arm. It felt as warm and real as always. You're a liar.
Yes, I'm a liar. That's one of my better qualities. But I'm not lying this time, Skipper. You're not real anymore.
I feel the way I always have.
But I changed you into a comic book character. Remember when you entered this building for the first time? You walked through the glass door and a beam of light passed over you?
Yeah, I remember that.
Well, that was a scanner. When you stepped through it, it scanned your entire body. It turned you into tiny dots of ink.
No!
That's all you are now, Skipper. Tiny dots of red, blue, and yellow ink. You're a comic book character, just like me.
He slid toward me menacingly, his cape spreading out behind him.
But I'm sorry to say you've made your last appearance in my comic book. Or in any comic book.
Wait!
I can't wait any longer. I've already wasted too much time on you, Skipper.
But I'm not Skipper. There is no Skipper Matthews.
Oh, really? Then who are you?
I'm the colossal Elastic Boy.
Elastic Boy? I thought you looked familiar.
Goodbye, masked mutant.
Where you going?
Back to my home planet of Zargos. I'm not allowed to guest star in other comic books. He moved quickly to block the door.
Nice try, Elastic Boy, but you've invaded my secret headquarters. Now, I have to destroy you.
You can't destroy Elastic Boy. I'll stretch out my elastic arms and wrap you in them and squeeze you into Play-Doh.
I don't think so. I'm tired of all this talk. I'm gonna tear you to pieces, and then tear your pieces into tiny pieces.
No way! I'm elastic, remember? I can't be torn into pieces. I bend, but I don't break. There's only one way that Elastic Boy can be destroyed.
What's that?
By sulfuric acid. That's the only thing that can destroy my elastic body. A pleased smile spread behind the masked face. Oops! Did I say sulfuric acid? Oh, I didn't mean to let that slip out. I tried to make it to the door, but I wasn't fast enough. I saw the masked mutant quickly begin to change. He changed into a steaming hot wave of sulfuric acid. And before I could move, the tall wave of acid swept toward me. I leaped away. The tall wave swept past, missing me by inches. I turned and watched it splash over the carpet. The carpet began to sizzle and burn. Yes! Yes! I had never felt so happy, so strong, so triumphant. I had defeated the masked mutant. I had destroyed the most evil supervillain ever to walk the planet. Me! A 12-year-old boy named Skipper Matthews. I had sent the masked mutant to his doom. Such a simple trick, but it had worked. From reading the comics, I knew that the masked mutant could change his molecules into anything solid and then change back again. But I tricked him into changing himself into a liquid. And once he changed into a liquid, he could not reform himself. The masked mutant was gone forever. Skipper, you are a clever guy. I was so happy I did a little dance on the thick carpet. I couldn't believe the masked mutant had believed that I was Elastic Boy. I'd made that name up. I've never heard of any Elastic Boy, but he fell for it. And now the evil supervillain is gone, and I am alive. Alive! I couldn't wait to get home and see my family again. The bus ride seemed to take hours. Finally, I was running up my front lawn and through the front door. I immediately saw a brown envelope lying on the mail table. The new issue of The Masked Mutant. Who needs it, I asked myself. I ignored it and hurried to say hi to my parents. I was so glad to be home. I was even happy to see Mitzi. Hey, Mitzi, how about a game of Frisbee? She gaped at me in shock. I never want to play anything with my little sister. But today, I just wanted to celebrate being alive. Mitzi and I hurried out to the backyard. We threw a Frisbee around for about a half an hour. We had a great time. How about a snack?
Yeah, I'm starving. Mom left some chocolate cake on the counter.
Chocolate cake sounded just right. I trotted into the kitchen and pulled down 2 plates from the cabinet. Then I found the big cake knife in the drawer.
Hey, don't make your slice bigger than mine.
Mitzi, I promise I won't cheat you. I slid the big knife over the cake. It slipped. Ow! The knife blade cut the back of my hand. I stared down at the cut. What was trickling out from it? Not blood. It was red, blue, yellow, and black ink!
Look at that! Cool!
Mitzi, where's that new Masked Mutant comic? I suddenly had the feeling that my comic book career wasn't over.
Attack of the Mutant by R.L. Stine. Created by Parachute Press and published by Scholastic Incorporated. This audio adaptation was produced and distributed by Walt Disney Records.